Hey Sub-Furies! Welcome to part 2 of our Battle of the Titans, the Red Death in her prime and an Alpha Night Fury with all of their battle prowess. Click the link up in the corner if you want to go watch part 1. Yesterday we discussed who would have the edge in a surprise attack, ground combat, melee combat, and firepower. The Alpha Night Fury took out surprise attack, but the Red Death took out all the rest. Welcome to the most tremendous battle of all time.
You know, I really feel like I'm going to win.
I'm sure you do, Toothless, but the battle is a close one. A Red Death in her prime is faster, smarter, less arrogant, and far more powerful than we saw in the first movie, while the Alpha Night Fury is a whole other question. The Night Fury will do its best to try and keep its distance from the Red Death. It would know and figure out that if it got too close too often, it would be in real danger. It will do its best to come in for quick strikes and attacks, dealing blows from afar while using its immense size against it. The Alpha will do this by targeting its weak points and limb, perhaps causing it to stumble and expose its more vulnerable underbelly. It's been referenced a number of times in the show and the movie that the underbelly of a dragon is more vulnerable than the rest of its body, most notably in the death of Vulca's wildebeest in the second movie. We also talked about how the Red Death might have superior firepower with its massive torrents of flame that can go hundreds of meters, but it does have only a shot limit of 9, and from what we know, shot limits don't change much, no matter how powerful or young you are. But it's also interesting to note that the Red Death didn't use its fire as much as it could have, or maybe even wanted to. One reason for this is that the Red Death may need to wait for it to recharge for it to use its fire blasts, and eventually it would run out. The database has shown us that Night Furies seem to have a shot count of 6, a relatively low shot count, but at the end of the second movie, when a Night Fury goes into alpha mode, it seems to be able to give off 10 or 15 explosive shots in a row. Even if the Alpha does have a limit, it might take a long time for it to reach that. Now, it's true that pinpoint accuracy relies somewhat on being close ranged, but with a huge target like the Red Death, the Alpha Night Fury could fire from afar or anywhere that it needs to be. Because of this, I award the Night Fury the advantage of long-ranged combat. Now, while I do think that both dragons are incredibly smart, I do think that the Alpha Night Fury is smarter. It would taunt and tease the Red Death until it began to chase it into the air, much like we saw it happen in the first movie. The thing is that the Red Death really wouldn't want to do this. It knows that it is weaker in the air, so it would try a different strategy. The Red Death knows it isn't as fast as a Night Fury, but it also knows that it can go for longer. So we'd try and wear this Alpha Night Fury down until it was tired, until it was weaker. And that is one major factor that a Red Death, a huge creature, has over a far smaller creature like a Night Fury: stamina. It can fight for longer and exert less energy, while the Night Fury is flying around expending all of its energy and effort loosing off shots at it. Because of this, I undoubtedly award the Red Death the advantage in stamina. It could keep it up for longer. Ooh, that sounds wrong. But eventually, taunted and teased, the two would begin to fight in mid-air. Being younger, more experienced, the Red Death would be quicker and far more agile than we saw in the first movie. However, not nearly as quick as an Alpha Night Fury in their prime. After all, this is their environment. They can hide in the clouds and attack without warning, and the Red Death would struggle to be quick enough to get them. The only point of advantage here is that the Red Death does have 360-degree vision. That's why it has 6 eyes, 3 on each side. It can see all around it at all times. It would be hard for the Night Fury to catch it entirely off guard. Yet with spine flaps that allow it to turn quicker and a speed at a minimum of 20, aerial combat undoubtedly goes to the Alpha Night Fury. But there are some odd factors that we haven't accounted for yet. The Night Fury has a number of other abilities such as echolocation, and it's not clear how this would play into the battle. It could perhaps allow it to navigate the battlefield underground, or test out precisely where it wants to attack from at the beginning, or at where it wants to go if it wants to flee the battle. Night Furies are known for single, powerful, decisive shots that disable their opponents, and such abilities will allow it to map out the battlefield to maximize its effect. But there is also one massive factor that both of these dragons have. Alpha control, though to a lesser or more degree. Either Toothless or the Red Death could get other dragons to come help them or assist them in the battle. How this would play out, I really don't know. Which dragons would they get involved? What would they do? Would it even be effective? How much does it take to control other dragons? However, while Toothless used this ability against the Bewilderbeasts in the second movie, the Red Death in the first one didn't use it against the Vikings or against Hiccup or Toothless. In fact, its dragons tended to flee, suggesting to me that the Red Death's ability to control other dragons isn't as pervasive or as the Night Furies. Because of this, I award the wildcard advantage to the Alpha Night Fury. So where does this Battle of the Titans leave us? The Red Death takes out the advantage in ground combat, melee combat, stamina, and firepower, while the Alpha Night Fury takes out the surprise attack, aerial combat, and the wildcard advantage. Now it's time for you to vote. There is a link down to a poll in the comments below. Go vote for the dragon that you honestly think would win, and I know you love Night Furies. Honestly. That being said, Alpha Night Furies are pretty damn powerful. Once again, big thank you to Akane the animator for animating the opening scene to all of our dragon tournaments. There's a link to her commissions and channel in the description below. She's really awesome, great friend. My question for you today is difficult. Brothers or sisters, and why? As a man who grew up with two sisters, I can definitely tell you that they are blessed to have a brother such as myself. In the meantime, I'd love for you to come follow me on Twitter, Wattpad, Facebook, my second channel, TwotheFuture. There is another Rise of Berk video where I play it. You can watch it and I talk about random stuff. You can watch that. There's also vlogs if you're interested in that. Send me stuff that you made, the address and links in the description below. Stay nerdy, Sub-Furies, and I'll see you in the future.